The party switch is a myth.
I have a simple request for the MAGA people out there. Can y'all please learn the difference between political party and ideology? And on the flip side, to the people on the left, can y'all please stop saying, well, the parties switched after LBJ signed the Civil Rights Bill. They switched after this or that. Nixon's Southern strategy. That's how MAGA thinks they got you. They ask for a specific time or date when the parties flipped, and some of y'all always say one of those answers, which is wrong. You can't point to a specific time or date. There was no party switch in that regard. That's because it's a slow burn. Shit, it's still going on today. MAGA, I am begging y'all to please learn the difference between party and ideology, because I know that I'm not the smartest person. But a lot of times y'all make me feel like I'm a genius. The downside of that is when dealing with y'all, sometimes I feel like I'm punching down. I don't like arguing with dumb people if they can't help it. That's just mean. I know in today's hyper-partisan world, it is unfathomable that once upon a time there was such a thing as conservative Democrats and liberal Republicans. That's why I'm begging y'all to please learn the difference between party and ideology, because those things existed. It's something that cannot be disputed. Before y'all ban history books, it might help to pick one up and peruse through it. Nobody is disputing the fact that the Democrats were the party of the KKK, or that the Democrats fought to keep slaves, or that the Democrats put up Confederate statues. But if you truly believe that today's Republican Party is the exact same as Lincoln's Republican Party, then you may be dumber than I originally thought, and maybe I am punching down. You seriously think that Lincoln's Republican Party is the same one that screams states' rights today? There's the simplest answer. Which party screamed states' rights in the past, and which one screams states' rights today? The Republican Party sent the federal government into the South and declared martial law during Reconstruction, while Democrats screamed states' rights. Civil rights had Democrats screaming states' rights, while Roe versus Wade being overturned had Republicans screaming states' rights. The same Republicans who were pro-choice prior to Roe versus Wade. Nobody ever brings that up, but it's also an undisputable fact. Republicans will point to Robert Byrd being a member of the KKK as a young man and voting against the Civil Rights Bill. They'll say that means he was always a racist, and Joe Biden spoke at his funeral, which means that the Democrats are still the same old racist Democrats. They conveniently ignore that Byrd completely denounced his racist ways as he got older, and also conveniently ignore that along with Joe Biden, the NAACP also praised Robert Byrd at his funeral. Republicans will point to 20 years ago when both parties were against gay marriage and say, see? Like you're not allowed to change your stance on things. That's my favorite. People will tell me I was a Democrat for years until I finally realized they weren't my party anymore and I started voting Republican. Those people will say that the parties never switched. At the same time, they say that they swapped parties because their original party wasn't the same anymore. But yeah, Democrats were against gay marriage. Both sides were. That's where politics happens. Politicians listen to their constituents and either change their position on things or stay firm. And if they stay firm, they might change parties, but most likely they'll be replaced by a candidate who best represents their constituents. I'll give an example that MAGA might understand. George Wallace, former Alabama governor, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. In the 40s and 50s, he was considered a moderate. This is undisputable. You can look it up. During his time as a judge, he was actually considered kind of liberal. He spoke out against the KKK. He ran for governor in 1958 as a moderate Democrat and lost heavily to John Patterson, who was a hardline segregationist. Wallace realized what he had to do to become governor, so he changed his stance and won in 1962. Unfortunately, he listened to his constituents. Democrat and Republican hasn't always necessarily meant liberal and conservative. And I really wish MAGA would learn this, because they just out here looking dumb in front of Jesus and the entire world. Maybe they do know it and they just refuse to acknowledge it, because they cling on to the progress of their party's past while trying to turn back the progress they brag that their party achieved. The willful ignorance is as thick as Alabama humidity. This is how it usually goes. I talk about things that Alabama's Republican supermajority state government does. I get told by someone MAGA that Democrats ran Bama for years. Okay, I'm not disputing that, but I'm specifically talking about things that Alabama's Republican supermajority has done since they have been in office. Plus, I always tell them no matter which party is in charge, Alabama has always been run by conservatives, which sends MAGA into a Tasmanian devil tornado cloud of denial. So let me get this straight. You're telling me that the party that is the party of the KKK and the party that stands up for trans rights are the same exact party? Do you hear how stupid that sounds when I say it out loud? Alabama has always been run by conservatives because ideologies and parties are two completely different things. It's not a hard concept to grasp, but it must be slippery as fuck because MAGA sure as hell can't get a handle on it. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall is a MAGA man through and through. He was in New York City during Trump's trial showing support. He is leading the fight right now against gender affirming care and DEI. I heard him with my own ears at the Shelby County Library saying that he was fighting against the fourth branch of the government, the deep state. He is a shining star in the Alabama Republican Party. Prior to 2011, though, he was a Democrat. But he's always been a conservative. I told someone the other day that Alabama had always been run by conservatives, and he told me that I didn't know what I was talking about because Alabama didn't elect a Republican governor until the 90s, which just made me smile. Because he was correct. Alabama's first Republican governor took office in 1995. His name was Fob James. The funny thing about that is that that was his second term as governor. He also served as governor of Alabama from 1979 to 1983, when he was a member of the Democratic Party. But he was always a conservative. That gotcha moment became a self-own. Alabama has always been run by conservatives. I am begging y'all to learn the difference between political parties and ideologies.
Make sure to like and subscribe.